What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Voice of the Broken. I don't know what episode this is. I'm not going to try to give you a number because this is the third attempt to record I've made today, and I don't know if I'm going to use the footage. So we're going to just refer to this email as Control-Alt-Delete. I'm going to actually note before I get into this, because I was just going to jump in. I would like to say thank you to everyone who is supporting what I'm doing. The YouTube channel already has over 1,000 subscribers. We are close to 2,000 hours of watch time. So we're getting to the point where I might be able to start doing live streams on this channel. And the possibility of monetization is also on the foreground now. And in the event that I'm able to monetize that, it would allow me to know exactly where I'm going with the Voice of the Broken. Right now, Peaches and I have talked about this to a degree, and I have agreed to do 10 episodes. I'm going to do at least 10 episodes of this and then see where it goes, because days like today where I've got 4 hours into reading emails, that's 4 hours that I could be creating content for To Be Better. That's 4 hours that Peaches and I could be on a date. I could be riding four-wheelers with the kids. There's things that I could be doing with this time. So I am dedicated to 10 episodes for sure, no matter what, as long as I'm getting the emails in, 10 episodes. And then if we're able to monetize the channel and this is going to actually be something that I can justify spending 4 hours a day with, I can make this go from there. In the event that this channel is not able to be monetized because of the YouTube guidelines, I will still do content. However, I need to know that it's being watched. I need to know that it's being appreciated, because ultimately I don't mind doing things like this on my time. I just want to make sure that it's actually doing something. And if I'm able to monitor the metrics, I know it's doing something. Right now, I'm only able to watch the subscribers to the channel and what little bit of watch time we have, because we've only got 2 episodes up. So thank you again for everybody that's supporting what I'm doing. Please make sure that you share this content with people that you think is going to find value in it. Ladies, I know that a lot of you are watching this content. I hope that it helps you understand your men better. Men, I hope this keeps you here for another fucking day. We are not in a good place society-wise. Men catch a lot of shit. We're hated by fucking everyone. And for most of us, we're just trying to get through the fucking day. So with that being said, trigger warning, there's going to be conversation of the death of minors. It's not detailed. There's heavy content from COVID times, from a paramedic's perspective. And I'm going to just jump into this. So I'm not going to say the person's name, even though they gave me a fake name. I'm just going to skip over that. First and foremost, I want to thank y'all for your content and spreading the word about traditional relationships and marriages. To a world that has been derailed and lost its way, you are making a huge difference to people like me and my girlfriend. We're on episode 10, and we're going to continue to watch and listen to them in order until we get caught up. We've got a good way to go, but we've learned so much about not only each other, but also ourselves individually. That's the fucking goal. It's the whole point in all of this, dude. We want to be able to help people. We want you guys to be able to skip the hardships that we've had and learn from our mistakes and have the information that in mass that we've had to scour the internet and scour books and like fucking podcasts and all the things that we've done to get the information. We're giving it to you without you having to do all of that. So I'm glad that you guys are supporting it. Now on to my story. A full disclaimer, I am a firefighter and a critical care paramedic. I'm curious if there's a difference between a normal EMT and a critical care paramedic. He then wrote, and my story can be gruesome, but the details have to be included for you to understand the places I have been taken to mentally, and I am not looking for a thank you for your service or an attaboy. I am simply sharing my story because when I was going through this, I did it alone for a long time because I was too prideful to ask for help in fear of appearing weak in my profession. With that being said, here we go. No, we're not skipping over that, bro. And I wasn't going to give you a thank you or an attaboy. I can respect that that's not what you're going for. But I want to touch on, I did it alone for a long time because I was too prideful to ask for help in fear of appearing weak in my profession. Let's skip the profession aspect of it and let's talk about your relationship for a minute, because you are in a relationship. You and your girlfriend are listening to the podcast. You're on episode 10. You're trying to run the traditional value situation. You've learned a lot. You're working on yourselves individually. I really fucking hope that in this email, you cover the team aspect of you being with your woman and the way that this looks, because if you are honest with her and she is able to stand there and be there for you in your time of need and give you any type of comfort, even if it's just fucking sitting there in silence, rubbing your fucking hair, bro. Like, I don't know, but I hope that that's in this. I really hope that you have that. I'm a 28-year-old. I graduated high school in a small town, North Texas. When I graduated, I attended college for a semester before I realized that I was going to dump unnecessary money for a degree I would probably never use. I agree with that. While I was attending college, I became a volunteer firefighter with some of my buddies to see if it was something I would be interested in, and I was hooked immediately. Once hooked, I devoted every waking moment to better and prepare myself to become a full career firefighter. After a year of multiple classes, trainings, and interviews, I began working as a full-time firefighter and EMT at a multiple little fire department and ambulance stations at multiple little fire departments and ambulance stations until I could find my way to the big city. Guys, I've been doing this for 4 hours. My brain is mush right now, and I am so determined to get an episode recorded today that, like, if I seem like I have brain damage, just know that I kind of do, but I'm fucking doing my best. In 2017, I finally made it. I was accepted into a position in the Metroplex as a firefighter EMT. I was living the high life, going to specialized training and getting accepted into paramedic school. And I was finishing paramedic school as I was finishing the paramedic school, the COVID-19 pandemic. Oh, this motherfucker wrote pandemic. I love you. The pandemic began. I say pandemic because I agree that there were plans to cause destruction and chaos, but nevertheless, the pandemic plays an important part of my story. Fucking same. Because of COVID, I was pushed out of school early, given a degree, and then passed my national boards to become a certified paramedic. Once credentialed, I was put on the street in an ambulance right in the heart of one of the fastest growing cities in the US. Just like that, I was turning and burning. Talk about like fear and excitement all in one shot. You have barely out of school, barely licensed and ready to rock, and they just throw your ass to the wolves and you fucking run with it. That's exciting, right? Like, that's exciting for a lot of people to just end up in their field and go. I also see that there's a lot of people that would break under that pressure, and that's a very different mindset, I think, but I would thrive in this, especially if I had enough information to actually do my job. I really think that I would fucking thrive in that kind of chaos. I was assigned to a pretty rough part of town most days and would run constant shootings, stabbings, and assaults in my area. We were so busy that they would only let us work 12 hours a shift on the ambulance because we are constantly gone and we're usually too busy to eat or drink or take a breather. The work was hard, but the pay at the time was worth it until COVID came to Texas. I remember the beginning of the lockdown when people were so scared that they didn't call 911 for anything because people were so scared to go to the hospital in fear of catching the virus. We went from running 16 calls a shift to 2 or 3 maybe. It was great, but an uneasy feeling. I believe a part of me knew what lays around the corner. A few weeks later enters extreme chaos. Before we get into a few weeks later, let's talk about that a little bit, because I remember being in the Reno airport because I decided I was going to take a solo trip and travel 1 week somewhere that I've never been around anyone that I knew, and to just do photography and kind of get away from everything. I picked Lake Tahoe, not realizing that it was going to be fucking freezing because, I'm a Florida boy. I don't think about things like that. I'm thinking it's kind of near the desert. It's near Reno. Like, how fucking cold can it be? I didn't get to do any photography because I got to Reno. I spent 1 day there, and then they locked the fucking state down. And when I tell you that I flew out of the Las Vegas airport to fly home, there was like 6 people in the whole fucking airport, and they were all people that were working there. It was empty. The whole fucking airport was empty. There was no one at the gates. I remember sitting there listening to the president on the television, and the death counter that just stayed on the fucking TV that made everybody think that the world was falling apart and we were just fucking dying in mass. And there was a fear in that for me. Like, I really, like, at that point believed that there was a real virus that was going to just destroy the planet. The fear tactics for that worked for a lot of fucking people. And I would have stayed in Reno the entire 7 days of my trip had I been able to, like, actually go out and do shit. But all the businesses were being closed forcefully. And I knew that if I didn't come back to Florida, I didn't think that I was going to be able to make it back. So I had to call and change my ticket to get the fuck home. That whole situation was a mess. And I'm sure everybody's got their own COVID stories, but anyways, I came into work one day and realized we were in a different medic unit than usual. And when I was asked what was up, I was told that the other crew in my truck was being mandated to be held over due to severe call overload. I went into the office and there it was, 146 EMS calls in 1 hour with 36 calls holding. Holy shit, dude. The city exploded and COVID was in full swing. I was given gowns, masks, and some boot covers and shoved out the station, and we ran 22 calls in 16 hours. 18 of them were possible COVID related. The city had almost double the trucks on the street and we could not keep up. Hospitals were overflowing and people were swarming in all directions, some with minor symptoms, some severe. I'm curious what a normal day looked like, because you didn't say how many calls you normally ran in a day. You just said that you ran 12 hours and you were fucking swamped. I also am curious how many of these people that were calling were doing it because they were fear-mongering because of the TVs. That's a whole different discussion. This is all just a me thought. Before COVID and EMS, we did not tell people no when they asked to go to the hospital. We simply asked them where they wanted to go and we took them, as long as it was close by. Now, this was all changing. After about a week of us dealing with this chaos, we were given the policy where we could tell people who were abusing the 911 system no because of the massive waits and overcrowding at the hospital. But it was a Band-Aid for what was fixing to come. Oh man, I'm totally getting I Am Legend feeling from this. This is fucking like, I feel like I'm reading a horror novel. Anyways, at the same time of this, we began to notice less and less trucks in service because of employees getting the virus. With being a medic less than a year, I was promoted to a field training officer position, not by my will, and began training paramedics how to be paramedics at a rapid rate because we needed people on the streets. All the while, I was still trying to learn how to be a medic myself between employees getting sick and others leaving because they couldn't take it anymore. We dropped to 50% staffing in the city. The city and state then declared a state of emergency, and we were mandated to work overtime that I might as well be working 2 full-time jobs. All the while trying not to get sick myself and bring this home to my family. I had a girlfriend at the time who was still in nursing school, who was my rock. During all of this, with my family all living across the state, she was all I had to hold me together when and if I came home. Initially, she was very supportive, but due to the circumstances and chaos, tension started to arise. Burnt out was definitely starting to set in due to the constant day after day abuse and banter from work. There was a particular day where I pronounced 3 people deceased in a row, and then had to go argue with a lady that I could not take her to the hospital because there was simply no room for something so minor. She spat at me, called me a racist, and slammed the door. It wasn't that I didn't want to help her. I just didn't have the ability at that time. This is the first time I have ever heard somebody say that where they worked was actually overfilled with COVID. Our area, when we had COVID, I had people that worked in the hospital and we had multiple floors designated for COVID and we had beds available on every floor. It did not hit my area the way that it hit this major city, whatever this city is, which is fucking wild to me. And I don't know if it's the heat. I don't know if it's that Floridians just don't fucking talk to each other and there's no real true Southern hospitality here. I'm not really sure, but we weren't affected here the way that you were affected there. And it's crazy to think about that. This continued for months, getting worse and worse as the time went on, to the point where we were so short on medics that we were placed in SUVs and pickup trucks to chase ambulances. Staffed by EMTs, we would just bounce from call to call and see if they were critical or not. If they weren't, we would leave the EMTs to care for them and take them to the hospital, and it was on to the next one. As the medics, we were also in charge of the daunting task of telling the people who were calling 911 for nonsense that we couldn't take them. I took the brunt of an angry community for months until finally things started leveling out. We finally were starting to retain people, and we were training new ones to take the streets. Less and less people were getting sick, and things were starting to come back around to the new normal. And then something happened that people don't talk about. I need a drink. Oh man, I know where this is going. People isolated and locked down for almost all of 2020 and into 2021. When people tried to go back out and be normal, their socialization skills were gone. People forgot how to deal with each other. And in my assigned district, if you didn't like someone, you assaulted, stabbed, or shot them. And that's exactly what happened. Can we talk about how bad lockdowns fucked our kids? That time away from school has stunted them an estimated 3 to 5 years of social learning. Well, there was a word for it and it's gone. But that 1 year stunted them 3 to 5 years. So the kids who lived through COVID, when they go into high school and college and get a job in the real world, they are going into the world at a disadvantage because of a 6 month to a 1 year lockdown, depending on where you lived. It also changed the way that parents allowed their children to be schooled because they got to see what schools were actually doing. And now they had no choice but to be involved in what was going on because it was in their home and in their face. That's a whole different discussion. But anyways, over the radio, it was constantly things like Medic 62 respond to a shooting on 6th, Medic 21 respond drive-by in the 5th, 708, 910, and Medics 444 respond to a mass casualty shooting downtown. The city exploded. I was running constant shootings, stabbings, drive-by shootings, and other things I cannot say on here. I could feel my mental health declining. I've always been a leave it at the door type of person so that I could try to keep my household a positive environment. But as the constant abuse kept coming, I began to slip, causing extreme tension between myself and my significant other. I have said on the To Be Better podcast to protect your peace at all fucking costs. And I have also stated over and over again how important it is to have peace in your fucking home. Guys, you can have a really stressful job and have a very peaceful castle and you will balance. You will find a way to let that shit out and you'll be all right. You may need a little bit of extra help, but I truly believe that if you have a work-life balance where your home life is peaceful and you are able to decompress and you're able to work through your shit, you're good. The moment that your home life becomes a wreck, your work life is going to be amplified because you don't have a moment to fucking catch your breath. And when you're in a high stress situation and you are staying at elevated cortisol levels and you are always in fight or flight, you are taking years off your life. Not to mention what it does to your central nervous system and your inability to fucking shut it off, because you can't just turn that off. You are going to experience that heightened hormone levels, your adrenal glands and shit are working overtime. Your sleep levels get fucked up. Your ability to wake up and go to bed at normal times get fucked up. It really, really affects your brain. You have to protect the sanctity of your house, especially if you've got a very stressful job. Work had gotten so bad at this point, we were issued bulletproof vests and helmets for my work area. I also became a part of the tactical medic and worked alongside with the police department. Just another added stressor to this whole mess. I am fucking curious about that. I'm really curious about that. How did that? What a fucking statement. We were issued bulletproof vests and helmets to save lives. You were ordered body armor so that you could fucking save people's lives. Unreal. And then the final blow. I got sent home early after having to pronounce 3 kids deceased back to back on separate calls, and my chief saw that I was not doing well. When I got home, I noticed my girlfriend was asleep and that her phone was unlocked on her pillow. She fell asleep while watching a video or something, and I went to shut the video off, and when YouTube shut down, the next screen that was open was her text messages. I am not that guy. I am not the guy who goes through people's phones, but when I saw it, I noticed immediately a picture of a guy shirtless, so I was concerned. I then learned that for almost 8 months, the woman I thought I was going to marry had been messaging and cheating on me. This was my breaking point. This was rock bottom. The career that I loved and admired had eventually killed everything that I loved and cherished between friendships and relationships. I felt like it was all over. Damn, I didn't even wake her up. I simply wrote a note saying that I know and that she had 3 days to get out of my house, and I left. I had nothing left in me to fight. I went back to work despite having a few days off because I physically didn't have any place to go. I was a sinking ship and just needed something to take my mind off my own issues. There is no better way of doing that than having to deal with other people's problems, so that's why I went back. Bro, you really took the high road and just wrote a note and left and didn't even bother to wake her up. There's a level of shock there. Like, what is going through your head in that moment? How are you so calm in that? That tells me that in that moment, you realize that if you were to unleash everything that you were going through, that things would not be okay, that you would probably not be okay. And you pushed all of that shit down, wrote a calm ass note, and fucking went back to work for 3 days? Bro, like, your level of self-awareness is high as fuck. I would imagine that the emotional trauma and PTSD and all of the shit that was going through your life while dealing with all of the death around you and then coming home to that, the fact that it didn't fucking break you, kudos to you. Fucking kudos to you. Wow. I worked 2 days straight and then stayed the third day at a hotel having to deal with constant "I'm sorry" and "these weren't my intention" texts from this woman. My heart was broken. I was known as one of the nicest people at work who treated my patients really well, but this new norm for me was anything but pleasant when we were working. I would show up and be hateful towards people who were calling 911 for nonsense. My burnout was in full swing and I wanted to do anything but be in this place anymore. So I started applying for smaller agencies around. One night we were on our way back to the station to swap crews so I could go home, and we were then assigned to a high priority call, which meant I had to take it even though we were technically cleared for end of shift. When we got there, this man was coughing profusely and vomiting up blood. His health was rapidly declining right in front of my face, and I had to do something. I put a tube down his throat, but that just channeled a highway for all the blood he then coded, which means his heart stopped beating. Highway for all the blood, period. He then coded. There's no period there, but it should have been. Sorry, guys. I should have paused that. He then coded, which means his heart stopped beating. I began CPR. My partner drove us to the hospital while me and an 18-year-old student did our best to bring the man back to life, but it was no use. The man was dead, and I knew that there was nothing that me or the doctors could do to bring him back. We arrived in the hospital, rolled him into the ER. He wrote ED. Maybe that was meant to be ER. I don't know. No, you wrote ED twice. I don't know what that is. Is that the ER? I noticed some of our captains was parked at the ED. And he was playing on his phone and didn't even look up to see what was going on. He had his radio on, so I knew he heard my critical patient report while I was going into the hospital. After we gave him to the hospital staff, as I suspected, they pronounced him deceased, and we went outside to clean up and debrief my team as this poor student who was tossed into this mess at such a young age. When I say there was blood everywhere, it is an understatement. From the floor to the ceiling of the ambulance, there was blood. My uniform was no longer blue and gray, but red and brown. We were doing our best to get cleaned when that same supervisor walks up and immediately says, "What's taking y'all so long, and why are you not in service?" Me, being a senior guy at this point, tried to explain our situation and that we were out of service because we are now an hour and a half overdue for shift swap, but he wasn't having it. He continued to belittle us and talk down, lecture me until I finally lost it and exploded. I'm going to read this verbatim. These are not my words, but I'm going to read them verbatim because this is the shit that you guys need to hear, right? So I told you in episode 1, I'm going to try to not sugarcoat these things, and I'm going to read them verbatim. Whether it says suicide or drug addict or rape or whatever. So just know that these are not my words. These are the exploded situation. He continued to belittle us and talk down, lecture me until I finally lost it and exploded. From motherfucker to fat piece of shit, it all came out and I let this dude have it. And to say I lost my shit was an absolute understatement. I told him to get his fat ass back into his Tahoe and go play more Angry Birds and that I was going home, and we left. The next day, I walked into the main station and we went straight to the commissioner and put in my immediate resignation. And went straight to the commissioner. He tried to calm me down, but there was none of that. I was hot and I knew this chapter of my life was done. I left and never looked back. When I got home, I was so overwhelmed and worked up where I was no longer in my right state of mind. I remember typing in my bed. I remember typing in my code to my safe and acquired one of my guns and sat down on the bed. I remember crying and screaming to God, why did I deserve this? All I did was help people, and this is what I get. I've been in that position. My screams to God were very different than yours were, but I have been where you were in that moment. It's when you have been in that place, it's a very emotional thing to hear other people go through that, because you might suppress, you might work through things. It might not be a big deal for you to talk about it now, but when you hear other people's life experiences and you understand where they were and you can really put yourself in their shoes because you've fucking been there, this shit gets hard to read. I was there. I was at that point where the pain and the built up wear and tear was no longer bearable, and the only way I saw out was by ending it all. In my mind, if I use this gun, I would just blow all these memories away, and that's when I got the phone call. The same commissioner that I just told his department was that his department was a joke, and that I'm leaving and I'm never looking back, is calling me, probably begging me to come back. At first, I don't answer, but he calls me again. I pick up and he just said, "I want to get you help." I know what you're going through and you're not yourself. You're not that same bright-eyed baby firefighter who walked in here 5 years ago, and I don't want you to do anything you will regret. He never once asked me to come back to the department. However, just asked if I would contact the support team to get help. In episode 2, there was a catalyst for a young man's life being saved by a police officer who offered a hug. This is the community that we talk about needing. This is the people who are there to simply fucking be there. This isn't a suck it up pussy. This isn't a, you're going to be okay. This is truly, I see you right now, right? Like, I fucking see you right now. Let me help you. For the first time, I went to therapy. After doing this job for 7 years, I finally cracked it. It wasn't the calls and seeing all the gore that got me, though. It was the way that people treated me, like I was an over-glorified taxi driver or that I was a cop, even though I was in a completely different uniform. I was treated like a pawn at work, and the breaking point was the one person I sought refuge in had betrayed my trust in the name of lust and addiction that I was unaware of. Therapy really brought me back around and grounded me. Another thing that really helped me was that I went to work right back where I started as a career firefighter in the place that I started as a volunteer years ago. It's funny how things come around full circle. I am currently working my way up into a leadership position there with the preface that I will never make someone feel the way I felt the night after I ran that call. I strive to make my team members feel valued and appreciated. I'm also a part of a I am also part of and am spear fronting a peer support system for my guys and girls at work. So no matter what mental health issues come up, we have resources and a support system to help them. I still go to therapy, and with y'all's podcast, I'm getting the help I need to be a better man, not only for my woman, but not only for myself, but for my woman as well. I got the closure I needed with the woman who cheated on me, and it helped me realize that even though what she did was completely fucked up, hearing her side of the story helped me realize where I could grow as a person. And that I was definitely not a perfect partner either. Nevertheless, I'm honored to share my story with y'all and am becoming a patron member soon now that I found y'all's website. Okay, so, bro, the accountability from that, I got the closure I needed with the woman who cheated on me, and it helped me realize that even though what she did was completely fucked up, hearing her side of the story helped me realize where I could grow as a person and that I was definitely not a perfect partner. This is what we talk about. You're on episode 10, so you're not even there yet, but this is such a heavy conversation that we have. There is a difference between taking accountability and taking blame. She could blame you for it, right? And you could be like, fuck you, I'm not that, da-da-da-da-da, and you can make excuses, or you can listen to what she had to say, take an assessment of who you are as a person and go, okay, those are weak spots, and I can fix that. I know that action is less becoming of who I want to be as a man, so I'm going to work on these things so that I don't repeat these patterns of behavior in the future. This is the accountability that we talk about on the podcast. Your life is here. You are existing right now because of a fucking phone call. Not about a job. Simply because somebody saw you. They truly saw you for what was going on in your life and was able to actually reach out. I know that on the To Be Better podcast, I have stated that I don't believe in God. I know God. And whether you want to hear this religious shit or not, I'm going to say it anyways because this is my belief. I have seen too many miracles in my life for me not to have faith in a higher being. That's just all there is to that. That phone call is all of the proof in the world that my God exists. Yep. I truly believe that God heard your screams that night. And let's talk about what this looks like for you, because you went from being in that position in a very ugly time in our history, right? In our immediate history, to realizing that this isn't going to change. And there's going to be a whole lot of younger people that are going to be coming into the position that you are in or were in, that is going to need that guidance and help. And if you didn't go through what you went through, these younger people coming in wouldn't have the guidance that you're providing. I believe that all of my hardships and shortcomings in life, everything that I have gone through, the hell that I've walked through, I have done because there are people who would have broken under the pressure that I didn't break under. And I'm able to give that information, and I have a little bit of voice on the internet for people to fucking hear what we have to say and to share our stories. And somebody's going to hear this, and this is going to be what they need to fucking push through something. And I believe that. we go through the things that we can fucking tolerate because other people wouldn't be able to tolerate this much. So good on you for creating this fucking group and advocating the mental health in your career. That's fucking huge. He leaves a little bit of notes on the bottom saying thank you for what we do. Thank you for sending this in, dude. I mean that. This is a shorter episode. We're only 40 minutes in or something. Some of these emails fucking get me, man. Because again, like I said earlier, I find myself in positions where I relate to you guys because I've been in those positions. And though the situation may not look the same, you know what that darkness feels like. And we get to a point where like that darkness and the way that the soul crushing feeling of that weight, when that weight is gone, it's not something you'll ever forget. And like I've said over and over again that I am here because I believed that I deserved more in my life. I deserved to experience true happiness. And I fucking believed I deserved more than I had. And I got it. So when I read these emails and I look back on my life and I'm like, I could have fucking quit. I could have given up. And I wouldn't have gotten to experience all the dope shit that I've got to experience. I wouldn't have gotten to live this life. It's wild to think about the people that are around that could be that lifeline for you. And sometimes we have to be the ones to reach out to people. Sometimes they don't see what's going on, or maybe we hide it too well, or they're just too caught up in their own shit. That day that he lost it on his boss, he wouldn't have been able to be there for somebody. Somebody else had to be there for him, and now he's able to fucking step up and lead that charge into other areas to help other people. This was something else. That was a lot. I was not prepared for all of that. I wish that I had some profound shit to say to you guys at this point. I fucking can't believe that dude managed to keep his cool, and I'm glad that he's doing what he's doing, and I don't really have a whole lot to break down on this one. So I'm going to wrap this up, and hopefully you guys find value in it. And if there's things that you felt like should have been said, leave it in the comments. Maybe I missed something. Maybe you have a different take on it. I don't fucking know, but maybe the comment that you leave might be the thing that saves somebody else's life. We'll see you guys on the next one.